Hi everyone, and welcome back to Intel Extreme Masters World Championship Day 2, Group C. We have an exciting match coming up for you next. It's Violet versus Snute, but first I want to remind you all to go to facebook.com/IEM and make sure you vote for this tournament's Sick Nerd Baller, because it's a very prestigious honor and we want to make sure that your voice is heard. So please make your voices heard in welcoming to the stage, Snute. Also, his opponent from Azubu, Violet. Snute, you're in kind of a rough spot here. I don't want to make you nervous, but do you think you're going to come back against Violet?
Maybe. I'm a bit more comfortable in CVC than the other matchups, but my shape today has been horrible, so yeah, we'll see.
What would it take for you to win here?
Sorry?
What would it take for you to win here?
I think I need to restore the confidence in myself and believe in myself. And but yeah, it's going to be difficult because I played against Violet before in IPL, and he beat me that time. So maybe it will take a miracle, but I'll do my best.
Well, is there anything that you do to like build up confidence backstage? You do like 5 push-ups or like, you know, shadow box for a while?
Maybe I should start doing that.
Yeah, well, if you want to start here, we can. You want to do push-ups? No, that's fine. That's fine. Violet, is this your first ZVZ of the day?
Today? No, I already beat Vortex 2-1.
I'm sorry. So you're well practiced. How are you feeling going into this match?
I already started zeroing my group, so I'm just really, that means I'm really confident, so I can make a good game in this too.
We're going to have to lend some of that confidence to Snute, but I'm excited to see how this game goes. I want to see you guys play ZVZ. You said you're confident here. Let's shake hands. Shake hands, firm grip, intimidate him. All right, off to your matches, and I'm going to hand you guys back to the analysts.
All right, well, QXC, there's no Terran in this matchup. It's a ZVZ. How do you feel about that?
You know, man, I really want to see Terran games. But ZVZ is also one of my favorite matchups. And we have Violet against Snute, 2 very good players. Harsh them. Even though you play Protoss, I know you like ZVZ as well. We've casted some ZVZs before.
Yeah, man. ZVZ, one of my favorite matchups. And,
do you know anything about ZVZ on Heart of the Swarm?
Mutas. Lots of mutas.
That's what I heard too. I talked a little bit with Moonblade, and he even sent me one of his replays, and apparently it's all about the mutas.
Well, yeah, I mean, Mutalisks are just a much stronger unit in Heart of the Swarm. Their regeneration rate, of course, helps a lot in being able to poke in and out and just make sure you have a good amount of health for the next engagement. Of course, a little bit more difficult as well with the old school fungal growths and stuff, just more difficult to land now as well. Just the mutas are just the viable play here. Are we actually just going to see muta in every game?
Well, it's going to start with something else, of course. A little bit of Baning, Lingwar. Maybe we're going to see Snute open Roaches. I think Snute used to like to open Gasless, 3 Queens, and then if he would see pressure, he would wall in with Evo Chambers. We saw that at Homestar Cup quite a bit.
That's very specific. I remember you casted those games too. You know a lot about Snute, man.
Oh, man.
And this is so perfect because, you know, Kelaris and Apollo, I think they play random, but I know they have a Zerg heart inside of them beating. I know they like Zerg a lot.
Kalaris just gave me the weirdest look.
I always say that about him because he doesn't like it.
It's going to be very interesting indeed. Violet, though, he's been on an absolute tear, and he mentioned that, yes, now he's quite confident that he can come top of his group. And obviously, Snute's been having a bit of a hard time so far, and his opponents really aren't getting any easier. Have you guys had a chance to see how confident Snute is in his ZVZ compared to his ZVP?
I think his ZVZ is one of his best matchups.
Yeah, in Wings of Liberty at least. But the thing is, he's not been playing as well as we would expect him to. But now, I don't think it was a case of nervousness, but maybe. But the thing is now he has nothing to lose because he's already out. So maybe he will unleash the beast within and crush Violet. Who knows?
Yeah.
That would be quite impressive to watch. So guys, do we have any particular predictions here for the score between our 2 Zerg players? We have Snute going up against Violet.
I think Snute is going to take it 2-1.
Same.
Snute 2-1. Okay, that's some pretty bold predictions there, of course. That would be amazing as well. It'd be a really nice confidence booster for Snute. In the meantime, guys, don't forget, you saw on your screens just now, the players are playing on their brand new BenQ 27-inch monitors, their world debut here at CBIT. Not going to be helping him too much, though. Snute just wants to try and focus. He doesn't want to worry about anything else right now. And to be fair, he's looking like he wants to rally. He doesn't look like, oh, I'm out, I'm just going to do whatever and give up. He doesn't look like that at all. He looks like he's really determined here.
Obviously, he's not happy, but he's not depressed either. You know? He has a strong mind, so
that's really important. Like the attitude to have going into a map like that.
I expect him to give nothing but his best here.
So let's see if he can do this and if he can try and turn around some of his recent misfortunes in this match against Violet. We're going to be heading over to our commentators here. We have Apollo and Kalaris.
Thanks very much, guys. Game number 1 is going to be on Daybreak here to kick things off for our first ZVZ on the main stage, actually.
Yeah, we haven't seen one all weekend here. I'm quite excited for this. Zerg vs. Zerg is kept very much so, very similar to how it was played in Wings of Liberty. The good players, the good Zerg vs. Zerg players in Wings of Liberty are usually still on top of the matchup when it comes to Heart of the Swarm as well. And Snute was definitely on top of Zerg vs. Zerg and Wings of Liberty. So let's see if he can kind of claim his first victory at the Intel Stream Masters.
Yeah, very, very strong in ZVZ, but you can't count out Violet whatsoever. In fact, most of his really big tournament success in the very end of things, or the downfall of him, came in ZVZ. And Intel Extreme Masters Cologne, he lost out to Nurcio in that 3rd and 4th place, to end in 3rd and 4th place, and then he actually came 2nd, I believe, to Lenok at IPL 5. So, you know, ZVZ for him can be a bit of a double-edged blade sometimes. So, spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner here as our blue Zerg, we have none others than Azubu's Violet. And spawning up at the top right-hand corner as our red Zerg, he goes by the name of Liquid Snute.
Yeah, Snute not having a good tournament here. 0-3 is almost eliminated from the tournament. It's very, very unlikely that you can advance from a 6-player group in 3rd place with 2 wins to 3 losses if he was to win his next 2 games in a row. And he'd have to win them in quite convincing fashion, probably with 2 zeros. Violet is on fire. He's playing great. He was expected to play great. He was absolutely one of the favorites for the entire tournament before the tournament actually begun here. He's been performing well in the GSTL and the preseason Heart of the Swarm. He's confident, he's practicing a lot, he was top of the Grandmaster League. You know, this tournament is all his, and I think, you know, Snute's just another person in the way for him to beat.
Yeah, really, really true. Violet's one of those players that has a really, really kind of interesting story behind him. If you don't know about Violet, he's one of the Koreans that very, very early on moved away from Korea and then pursued a bit more of that foreign standpoint. And, you know, you can see that in how good his English is, just what his tournament winnings over in America as well as Europe. He does so well for himself, and it's nice to see, you know, a Korean here with a lot of personality.
I completely agree. He's funny. Like you say, he's got great English. He's handsome. He enjoys himself at tournaments, which is very important as well. Because you feel confident. You just become a part of the tournament, which enables you to play better and stronger. And that's what seems to be happening with Violet here at this tournament. Yeah. But on the other hand, Snute, as mentioned, isn't having the best tournament of his life. But for sure, he is a Zerg vs. Zerg expert, and he definitely showed that towards the end of Wings of Liberty, as the game was drawing to its end. Snute was winning a lot of Zerg vs. Zergs. He, you know, destroyed Zergs when he won the Home Story Cup a couple of months back. So I'm expecting him to do well in this series.
He really did, in the form of people like Symbol doing very well for himself. And whenever you would ever tune in to Snute's stream, he was playing against Zergs like TLO, for example, and just never dropping a single game in ZVZ. Such good control and such good decision making in the mid game made Snute one of the most formidable ZVZers in the entire forest scene.
Yeah, he was very good at finding positions on his opponent, just getting in the middle and destroying them, dismantling them if he can find the right position. Almost putting your opponent in a choke point position where he cuts off your reinforcements, he will strangle you until you die, and that's how he became so good in Zerg vs. Zerg, finding those weak points. But as this game has started to develop, both of them have a relatively similar opening here, both going for speed quite early. Snute does have all 3 in gas. Likewise does Violet at the moment, looking towards most likely throwing down that Bailey Nest. And as mentioned, all of the new Heart of the Swarm units, because of course this is Heart of the Swarm, don't really come into play. If you think about the new units, what are they? Swarm hosts. Not really going to see Swarm hosts anytime soon. The Mulists do come into play, but not in the early stages. And then the Viper, that's a much later on. So the early game is absolutely identical to what it was in Wings of Liberty.
Yeah, no differences whatsoever. As for now, both of them place Baneling Nests at the front of their naturals here just to limit that surface area. And for now, just getting a sprinkling of Zerglings out here for Violet as well, keeping himself nicely in tune with exactly what is going on, making sure he can scout out what Snute's up to. But another thing that does come into Snute's play that is very, very strong is his ability to create concaves. You will always see him moving into, you know, odd little positions with a big line of units and then really swinging on in. And that plays a huge factor on a map like Entombed Valley, for example, but not as much here if, you know, his opponent Violet is just going to stick on 3 base and chill out a bit.
Muleless play is common for sure. It's much more common than it was in Wings of Liberty. Not so much, I mean, I guess it does play a factor with the Muleless changes, but I think it's more so the Infestor change. Simply because it's much harder to fungal. It's harder to pin them down. And that seems to be one of the reasons, and could also be one of the things that Violet seems to be looking for already with such a fast layer here compared to his opponent. But anything is possible. Double Evolution Chambers can still immediately come down here. So we'll see which, or how they're going to play this out.
Wow, so much gas on the way. Baneling connects, obliterating some of those Zerglings flying on our way. I love the new physics. It makes explosions so much fun to watch. But as you said, layers are on the way, and neither has decided fully what tech they're going to go for. They still can throw it in the Evo Chambers, but it's getting a little bit late to the point now where as soon as that layer finishes up for Violet here, might be Spire.
Yeah, with no Evo Chambers or Roach One coming down, it seems to be both of them are heading towards Spire. And what the game's going to revolve around is, if that does happen here, which it seems to be so, is going to revolve around who can delay their opponent's third base, who can prevent their opponent from mining gas from the third base. Because if somehow you can find a way to strifle that, then you're going to have the higher Mulus count. You're going to be able to take the better engagement. So that's the goal of both of these players momentarily as they both take their third bases.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Violet actually moving over to that third, trying to deny it with a few Lings, and bringing some Banelings over to try and zone out his opponent's Banelings. A Transfuse goes down on one of the Banelings here. Try and keep it alive. It gets a good connection in the very end. Only a few Zerglings left over there for Violet. Snute with a pretty impressive defense.
And at this point of the game, they're both roughly around 50 drones, or just short of 50 drones, which means you don't need to be building more drones at this point. It's all about Ling production, and the Ling production that we're seeing right now is going to be used to put pressure on Ling bailing towards their opponent's third base, defensively or aggressively. And it looks like Violet's the one being aggressive here. Snute's morphing defensively, and Violet's going to try and break this down, but with good defense, it shouldn't really be possible.
Yeah, that's a lot of Banelings connecting with one another here. Violet only has 2 more Banelings, but a lot of streams of Zerglings actually coming on in here. As 2 more Banelings are indeed morphing in. Violet actually has a lot of Zerglings here, but Snute's reinforcements come along to help on out, even forcing the cancellation of one of the Banelings, and he's not going to... Oh, just barely does not get that Queen.
Snute with a bit of an advantage here, though. He's defended well. He's got a higher gas count at the moment, and he's also mining more gas from that third base much faster than Violet. Violet did have the fastest Spire, but it's not really going to make much difference in this game. Neither of them will be looking for head-on engagements for the majority of this point. It's going to be all about picking off Overlords, looking to get an upper hand to deny scouting, to do this again, to try and get towards that third base to stop that gas income, which is ever so important.
Snute here with a lot of Zerglings now flooding on into the third base. This could do a significant amount of damage, but the Mutalisks do end up putting a clock on this entire offense, so should be able to clean it up eventually, killing off a Spine, but shouldn't really get too much more. Maybe 1 or 2 drones here and there, but this third base should be free for now.
Yeah, it's going to be free, and now it comes down to the point where both of them are looking to pick off Overlords. Snute still with a better position here, more Overlords out on the map. He hasn't lost any yet either, but is about to start losing them compared to Violet, who hasn't really lost anything yet, is going to start taking a couple of losses. Spore Crawler's coming down just in case the Mulists just fly in from nowhere, because it's quite a big map if you look from main to third base, and especially once all the Overlords die, you don't know where the Mulists are, so you kind of need to have that defense set up. And it looks like Violet moving around with his Mule, just kind of looking for any Overlords. Both of them do have +1 Carapace on the way. and a couple of Banelin's beam off. That's not going to work there.
No, not at all. Again, those carapace upgrades for the Mutalist so important, as it will determine whether or not those bounces are really going to do quite a lot of damage. 15 Mutalists to 12 right now in favor of Snute, but a lot more are on the way here for Violet. So he's going to equalize up the odds pretty quickly here, and it's going to be very, very even from here on out.
Yeah, it's all about now who continues building Mutalist and who doesn't. We've kind of passed the harassment stages. It's all about fights. Who's now going to decide to throw down, for example, Zergling Carapace? Who's going to want to survive an extra Baneling hit? Who wants to maybe throw down the Infestation Pit to try and catch the opponent's Mutalist? So it's all about where does the gas go from here. But at this current point, there's 20 Mutalists out for Violet, 18 for Snute, but Snute has Queens defensively here, which need to help out in these fights.
Oh, Carapace is not done here for Snute. It's going to finish in just a little bit here, but for now, Violet should be able to get the better end of the trade. The Queens should be able to help out as well, maybe even for some transfuses, but a lot of Lings actually flooding for Violet as well. He had the upper hand up until the point where that Carapace is now finished, so he wants to get out of there, but, I mean, he did kill a few workers during all of that, and he limited his opponent's music count.
That's right, and the Mutalist count right now is 18 for Violet, 16 for Snute here, and the Queens are going to help defensively, but the problem is, because he's been caught on the back foot, Lings have made their way to the main base, and you can't let this happen because Queens will die, which means production will slow down, gas income, mineral income will all fall down, and eventually you're going to start to slow down with your unit production, which is what Violet's hoping to capitalize on.
Yeah, he's getting 18 worker kills thus far, still going up here, 23 worker kills, 25, so much damage being done, limiting his opponent by 20 workers in total, and with that, I mean,
it's a big blow.
Yeah, it really is.
And now Snute has to rebuild those drones while his opponent's building units, so naturally here, Violet's just saying, all right, I'll buy my time. I got +1 attack on the way. I just have to wait 1 to 2 minutes. I'll have a bigger army because he's had to rebuild his income. It's down. He's wasting lava on drones, not units here. But we do have Snute move across the map. He has a high Mutalist count for this point. Where are the Queens? Spore Crawl's not doing anything at this point, and this is quite a scary moment here for Violet.
Yeah, this is like Snute's one big blow here. If he can get this done, if he can make something happen, he should be okay. But no, Violet will be able to push him back for now. Still Zerglings trying to go for a counter-offensive here from Violet behind all of this. Snute plummeting down to 30 supply behind Violet. And, I mean, there you go. GG.
Losing too many workers, couldn't beat down his opponent, and Violet just outclassing Snute there a little bit and takes quite a good game 1 between them both.
Yeah, pretty impressive. Violet here looking like the Lone Ranger with his scarf thrown over his shoulder, looking pretty cool there, collected, calm. Going up against Snute, who is a very strong ZVZ opponent. Violet just, he had all the angles covered. Constantly going for those multi-pronged attacks is devastating in ZVZ if you're not on top of it.
And unfortunately for Snute, overall in terms of match score, he's only won 1 map all tournament long. He's now lost 7. It's not looking good.
It really isn't. So guys, we'll send it over to the analysis desk with Jorosar, QXE and Harstem to see what they say about game number 1.
Well, it was a really interesting game number 1, guys, where the players effectively more or less did the same builds to open up with, but then Violet just started getting... First, he got a really nice timing there with the Mutas when he came in and his +1 finished, but we're going to talk a little bit about that in a second. He also managed to get really nice Ling counterattacks while the Mutas were otherwise engaging him. Harstem, what did you reckon about that game in general?
Well, I think in the early game, after the early game, so going into the mid game, Snute was 4 or 5 drones ahead actually. Then after the little skirmish at the third, it evened up a little bit, 2 or 3 drone difference, not that big of a deal. And then we had we did see the layer from Snute being delayed for no apparent reason, saving up a little bit of gas. I think it was a small mistake that actually might have cost him the game. And we are going to show why now.
Yep, so let's hop straight into... Oh, actually, okay.
It's coming.
It's coming up.
Yep.
So we're into the replay now. We're getting towards the 12-minute mark. Note the timing on the +1 carapace for the flying units, and note that Violet actually moved in with his Mutas pretty much the moment that his +1 finished.
Yep. And this is kind of where the battle's going to happen, so we're just going to wait for a moment here. And this had a lot to do with just Violet being a little more on task in terms of getting his tech and his transition going. So Violet did get his lair a bit earlier than Snute, and like Harstem said, it looked like more of a mistake than anything else. So here we see Violet does have that +1 carapace, makes a huge difference in this battle because it reduces the amount of damage that the Mutalists are taking from the bounce attack. Violet is able to take this, force Snute to back up, and from here, what's really important here is that he basically controls this area. Because there's the mutas of Snute need to fall back to some kind of support. So whether that's a Spore Crawler or Queens, whatever it is, and this area just doesn't have any of that. And from there, like Jorstar was saying, the Lings are going to start flooding.
Yeah, the Ling attacks from Violet were so good towards the end of the game. First getting Lings into the main, and then attacking the third just before the GG as well. How difficult must it be in Snoot's position to have to try and manage multiple locations at once, and why was it that Violet was able to do that so well?
Well, like QXC explained right now, basically what Violet is doing is controlling the ramp towards the natural, and the Lynx had a free entrance into the main base, killed a ton of drones over there, and then all Violet really had to do is defend his own third base, and he was in a great position, and yeah, he just won the game.
Yep. And a lot of this really came back to just Violet was a little more on key. He got his lair right when he could. He got his +1, his Spire a little bit earlier, his +1 Carapace a little bit earlier, and then he was able to convert that into an aggressive, controlling presence on the map.
Now, is there anything in Snoot's position that we want to be doing particularly differently in game number 2? Because strategically, it didn't look like his opening was inherently bad or anything against what Violet was trying to accomplish. It just felt that Violet was doing just a little bit better when it came to those engagements.
I don't think, based on what we just saw, Snoot's ZVZ looks very strong. It appears that he has a very strong understanding of the matchup. What it feels like is it's more of a condition problem. Whatever's going on with Snute right now, whatever's going on today, he's just not playing as well as he could have because he had the good position. Yes. He had the potential to be ahead or at the very least equal with Violet all throughout everything that we saw, but it was just his own condition that led to him getting that layer late, getting that Spire late, getting that +1 Carapace late, which led to, again, the losing position that we saw.
Well, he doesn't have too many more chances to pick it up, but hopefully he'll take heart from knowing that he basically just has to tweak his play, get it a little bit better, and see if he can't take a game here off the undefeated Violet. We're going to be heading over to our commentators, ladies and gentlemen, where Apollo and Kalaris will be guiding you through the next game.
Thanks very much, guys. Game number 2. Akelon Wastes is actually going to be our map for the CVZ. I think it's like one of the first times we've actually seen it during the tournament.
I think it is the first time we've seen it, so good to see a refreshing new map. But the playstyle's going to stay very similar here once again. You know, early game, similar. Mid game, whether it will be Mutalist or not, we'll have to find out. But Snute has an uphill battle to fight here against an undefeated Violet, looking as a tournament favorite here.
Very, very strong. So Snute here, getting ready to go. Good luck, have fun from him as we jump on into game number 2 between Snute and Violet. So, spawning down in our bottom right-hand corner here as our red Zerg. Currently 1 game down. Currently in a position for elimination in the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. He goes by the name of Liquid Snute. And spawning up to the top left-hand corner here as our blue Zerg. He goes by the name of Azubu's Violet.
Violet looking on form here today. Just playing his heart out. He's nailing it. He's doing everything that he's prepared for. He's worked hard in the back scene behind coming to this tournament, doing ever so well in the GSTL. And now is putting it on display at the first international Heart of the Swarm tournament here in Germany, Hanover. And with 1 more win, he cruises to 4-0. With 1 map win, cruises to 4-0, looking to ace his group. And if he makes it straight to the quarterfinals, he's going to have a pretty smooth run to the grand finals itself if he continues on this form.
Yeah, too true. He's right on the road there. And I mean, considering coming into this tournament and me thinking that, you know, Zerg might not stand a chance well with Violet being on this form that he is. Yeah. This is certainly possibly going to upset exactly what I thought maybe with a Protoss or a Terran clinching the title. But Violet's just looking so strong here.
Bit of a different opening here from Snute, who does open gas first, then spawning pool compared to hatchery, and then spawning pool gas, I suppose, is the usual follow-up here for Violet, or gas spawning pool, whichever way he decides to go. But Snute opening up with such an early extract is going to give him a very early speed. It's going to give him a very early bailing nest if he chooses to go down that way. And to be honest, why would you open up extractor this early if he wasn't planning on doing so, unless he was playing very defensive against any early pulls from Violet, just in anticipation for any early pulls. Snute could be looking to end this game quite soon.
Yeah, Violet here with his pull on the way. Very, very much so later than Snute here, as he did go for that hatchery first, as you well mentioned. And for now, behind all of this, Snute has pulled out of gas, so he's just going to be going for speed to kick things off. Will he put back on, is the question. As probably just going to be saving it for a hatchery for now.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely just looking to get a natural hatchery down, but getting speed on so early on here is going to allow him to overwhelm his opponent with speed links if Violet does not make the right moves, defensive moves here. One of the defensive moves that Violet may have to keep in consideration here is not taking out of gas. As soon as he gets speed, upon seeing such a late hatchery, is staying in gas past 100, get speed, go straight up to 50, and throw down a Baleen Nest on the natural as soon as possible, because he knows that, yes, he does have better production, yes, he does have a potentially better income, but if he doesn't defend it, then what is it going to be used for? And he decides to throw down a very early Spinecrawler, and I'm pretty sure he's going to be looking for a Baleen Nest quite soon as well.
Yeah, wouldn't be surprised in the slightest. 2 queens even being added onto this defense. I suppose for the most part, the architecture of Akalon Waste is pretty good for aggression, because the way in which the natural works is quite far away from the ramp. It's not easy to actually make proper walls off, so you can put the queens in good positions. You can't position them on the ramp, of course, and that's probably what we're going to be looking for Violet to do, at least with those 2 queens.
Yeah, Baleen Nest is coming down by Violet. 8 lings are on the way. 2 overlords are about to pop here for Snute. What does he make? Drones or lings? Drones or lings will decide which way he's going to take this game. Any second now, he's about to have lava that will start popping. And he's morphs 3 Banelings aggressively. Drone's behind it, though, so he's not looking to pile on the pressure here. He is droning behind it, so just a bit of light pressure here, looking to force Violet into overcommitting in defense. But to be honest, Violet's got a good defense set up already. Baleen Nest and Spinecrawler, double queens. Violet probably will see this, not see any more units streaming across the map, and go back to drones himself in a couple of seconds.
Yeah, no point at all here, as for now, well, should be able to hold this out. Maybe force the cancel of the Spinecrawler, that's quite nice, or even just get the kill. Well, that's quite a bit of damage done itself. One Baneling does connect, but not too much. And for now, Snute's just waddling on back.
And there the drone production does begin again for Violet. So a little bit of a light aggression here from Snute, cancelled out here by Violet, and both of them gone back to droning. So the game seems like it will continue. 3 Banelings do survive here, but they're not really going to accomplish anything. 1, 2, detonation goes down, and those Banelings don't survive another day.
Yeah, and now Snute is the one who's probably forced to make a few lings, a few defensive Banelings as well, because of the potential of Violet going for the counter-attack, which, you know, is going to hinder Snute a little bit, but in the grand scheme of things, well, actually, drones have tied up, so I assume that Violet's going to take a little bit of a lead here. Whoa, 10 drones? Good God.
Violet should immediately morph Lair as soon as Snute's out the way, because Snute doesn't know, is that a layer coming down? Is it more Banelings? Is it Roach Warren? Is it Evolution Chamber? What is it? He doesn't know. He has got no idea. So behind this, Violet tries to put on pressure while getting a tech lead in this game.
Yeah, 3 more Banelings still alive here. 1 does end up going down. Those Zerglings going to try and nibble away at some of the drones, but the Queen even under threat here.
If he can get in the main. He gets 1 in the main. And to be honest, he's not looking to do damage. He's more so just scouting. He sees no layer. He sees all 4 gases taken in total here. And that is a little bit scary for Violet. And he immediately morphs down a Spinecrawler. And the reason why it's scary is because he doesn't know if he's missed seeing a Roach Warren. Is it going to be a Roach Baneling or why is there not a layer coming down? And what Violet's going to do is sit back, defend, which is why we see another Spinecrawler being made. He'll throw down the Spy immediately now and say, I have a massive tech lead here. If I can just capitalize on it and not die, I can be killing Overlords before his layer even finishes to a certain extent, or maybe not quite that much, but you get what I'm saying.
Yeah, so true. He does have that lead, and with that, he just needs to run with it now, trying to, as best he can, capitalize on that. But Snute is going to take a little bit of a deviation himself here by going for a quicker third, which technically could work out for him depending on if Violet is able to get across the map easily enough with the Mutalisk. Oh, but he's already seen it. So Snute really needs to know what his opponent is up to right now.
Yeah, he really doesn't know what's going on, and that's actually quite a big problem here. He did see a second spine being made with those lings, which may suggest the thought process of Violet playing defensive against a non-layer. So to be honest, I think Snute might have an incline to what's going on, but he's not obviously not 100% certain. But upon seeing the Spinecrawler move down, upon seeing Overlord spread creep, he knows that Violet doesn't have a good solid defense, which means he doesn't have a Roach Warren and so on. So he should now know that Mulus is the choice of weapon.
It has to be. It has to be. He's going to try and move back now with these Zerglings as they were in a bit more of a defense. Oh, one Baneling catches a ton of Zerglings there. And Violet still looks to put on the pressure, trying to force some units here and there, and he's not doing too bad a job of it, gotta say. But that's a lot of Zerglings that Snute already has out and about.
Yeah, Violet a little bit sloppy with his Link Banelings there, and that will allow Snute to put some counter pressure on if he continues to build Banelings up there, and especially head towards...
Oh, one Baneling catastrophe. Wow. Oh.
Lots of them hitting both players actually trading quite big blows, but as you can see, look at the Mulus already on its way out. Carapace massively in advantage here. The drones are going to be mining gas on that third base momentarily here for Violet compared to Snute, who's a little bit slow on that. Or actually, sorry, Snute is a little bit faster. Just a couple of seconds, though, because they were long-distance mining compared to Snute. But still, 85 supply to 71, higher drone count, higher Mulus count. This is looking pretty good for Violet.
Yeah, that Mulus count being so far ahead this quickly is, I mean, it's not a huge amount, but it all matters right here, right now. Snute is grabbing himself a few more Mulus, but he's supply blocked right now during all this time where he has to get out other Overlords. We're going to see Violet accrue more and more Mutalisks, and they're going to really, really help him out here against Snute, who is a little bit under the weather.
He's definitely under the weather at the moment, and the one thing that he can hold on to is that his own Mulus will have the option to defend with Queens, which is always nice, and keeps that Queen alive, which is very helpful. But look at this, links to the third, Mulus to the natural, zoning out once again here by Violet, but there is a spine, there is a Queen on that third, which makes it easier to defend, but all Overlords have slowed Snute down. He's at 102 supply compared to a potential 126 for Violet. There's more Mulus on the way, much more drones on the way, because Violet has map control. He knows that he can just open up and build drones. Snute doesn't. He doesn't really know what to build, what to do against this.
And Snute got supply blocked again. Of course, he got the 4 Overlords out now, but that was too late. He had 800 gas banked up there and was 5 Mutalisk down. So all these little things are working in tandem to put Snute back further and further, whilst Violet is just, you know, accruing a little bit more. Although that being said, he's getting 11 Mutalisk extra out right now.
Yeah, he will take the Mutalisk lead very shortly here, but we do have +1 Carapace on for them, +1 attack on the way as well. And well, Violet does have map control, remember, no Overlords whatsoever out there for Snute. They've either been eliminated or brought back. Carapace upgrade lead still in favor for Violet, will take the advantage in any engagement here.
Yep, it's currently 19 to 22. If he were to take the engagement closer to his opponent's base, there is the argument that Snute could reinforce a little quicker, and then maybe the Carapace would be cancelled out. But now that he has Carapace, Violet does not want to be looking for too many engagements just yet, unless he was able to keep Zerglings surrounded around those Mutalisks, bouncing a few shots.
It is relatively equal, though. I mean, if you look at the supply count, the Mulus count is almost identical, 27 to 24 in favor of Violet, who has a slight lead, but Snute has more drones. Snute has map control as well. He did have that Xel'Naga Tower. He knows where the Mutalisks of Violet are. Snute was moving towards his third base in anticipation for the Mutalisks to go there. Great find here by Snute to slow the income down for Violet. If he had that easy fourth base, then that could have been rather bad there, having that extra income. But 29 Mutalisks for Violet, 28 for Snute.
And now Violet knows. Close. And now Violet knows exactly where his opponent's Mutalisks are as well, just over that watchtower up to the north. So he's going to move back for the defense, whilst after cleaning up all of that, knowing that the attack will come from the north.
Ooh, is he going to get an easy option in here? Look at that. Violet's actually moving his Mulus back to the main base already in anticipation for something like that. A great find there by Violet. That could have been big if the Mulus were on the south side, which is what Snute was hoping for there. And unfortunately, Snute loses a couple of Mutalisks there. Not too many, but does lose it. And we are going to have this +1 attack finish in a couple of seconds' time. It'll give a bit of an edge over to Violet.
That is going to be scary if Snute somehow, some way, would decide to turn around for any reason here against these Mutalisks. Then he might get caught very, very sharpishly. Zergling's actually going to go for the attack here, but the Mutalisk just flying and instantly one-shot that Queen. Going to chase him away, but they have +1 weapons now. Violet actually turns for the attack, and he's actually just going to go for it. These Mutalisks of Snute don't have any support.
Oh, this is incredibly close here as the Mutalisks go head-to-head. A couple of Violet's Mutalisks actually targeted down the Extractor, if you saw at the very first point.
Yeah, and there was a few Mutalisks as well for Snute popping right in this engagement. So it looks like Violet is going to retreat back for now, not fully confident in his position. And that is a perfect time to retreat, because +1 is about to finish there for Snute.
Oh, and Snute delivers a counter-strike here over to Violet's third, and Lings bring down the Queen. They can actually target down that hatchery if the Mutalisks don't come back in time. At least they're going to pick off the majority of these drones, and what an equal game, but Snute has taken a lead here.
Yeah, this is fantastic play by Snute to really, really ramp it up. 17 workers of have been killed by him. The Zerglings get cleaned up as well, but he's done the damage he needs to do at that third base, really limiting Violet right now. And Muta count is 26 to 23, with upgrades equal in favor of Snute.
Yeah, Violet does have +2 on attack on the way, but it's not going to come anytime soon. And Violet did manage to get that fourth base up. Both of them traded blows, but Violet had the bigger blow dealt to him. Not mining gas for a long time on that third. Snute, sorry, does have a fourth with extractors down compared to Violet, who doesn't. Mueller's count is again in favor for Snute, 29 to 26. +2 will help out though if Violet can find the time to get there.
And still adding on a ton of Zerglings once again here is Snute. So he's looking to try and go for a little bit of counterattacks once again when he knows his opponent's Mutalisk now on the field, looking to do some damage themselves. But will Violet necessarily actually move out for a while, considering the blow that has been done to him? Maybe he's unhappy on the 4 bases, just trying to recuperate those losses.
Yeah, he's in a bit of trouble. He's got half the amount of Lings. He's lacking behind in Mueller's by a little bit here as well. But he will have that +2 attack, and if Snute, I mean, that's the best option for Violet to do well in a fight, is if that +2 finishes and he can take a fight with defensive capabilities, Queens and Spores included.
Looks like Snute here moving into a good position for him to engage. Yes, 36 Mutalisks to 33 right now. Zerglings go for the counterattack, getting a lot of drones whilst he actually just focuses down the 4th hatchery. If he can get that, he's going to be in a massive economical lead here as his 4th is up and running, and he gets it and just gets on out from there. That is very, very nicely done.
Yeah, this is giving Snute more and more of an edge in this game. Killing that 4th base has put his income just much, much better than Violet's now. Violet's stuck at 137 supply compared to 183, and very shortly Snute will max out with Mueller's and Lings, and he's going to be able to win the fight. It's just simple math. He has more units.
He really does. He's going to try now. Is Violet here to penetrate the 4th base of his opponent, but I don't think that's really going to work out too well. Zerglings under Snute's Mutalisk, even soaking up some of the bounces as well, doing a very, very good job of killing off all of Violet's Mutalisks. He has to know that he is so down and out with that amount of Mutalisks bearing down on him. There you go, GG. Game number 2, tied up the series here from Snute, the Norwegian.
And Snute, despite looking down and dead, comes back to win a game against Violet, drawing the series up. He has one more game to win the series here. But still, Violet shows sign of weakness there, but a very close, very good game from Snute.
Very good. So, guys, we shall send it over to the analysis desk with Jorsar, QXE, and Harston. I'll see you in a bit.
All right, guys, that was a very entertaining game number 2, and Snute looking like he not only picked himself up, but he did it in a really fine way indeed, taking that victory over Violet, which forces this best of 3 into a 3rd and deciding game.
I really like Snute's play in that game. It looked a lot more solid in general. I felt like even though his layer and his Spire was a bit later, it was more a product of the build he was doing and reacting. He had to make those Banelings to make sure he was safe from Violet's counterplay, but it wasn't like he made mistakes just because his condition wasn't good.
Well, let's talk about that just for a second. We actually saw that Snute's layer tech was significantly further away than Violet's. So his Spire was a good minute behind Violet's at least. Was that the correct decision? Should he have considered maybe going into Hydras or something similar? Or what was the reasoning behind that? Is it okay to be that far behind the tech?
Well, I think Snute just showed that it is okay to be that far.
Yeah, I'm going to have to use this game as an example that apparently it is okay. And unfortunately, I don't know enough about ZVZ and Heart of the Swarm to know how significant, because the Mutas are now faster and they also have additional life regeneration, which means they're just stronger in this matchup. And meanwhile, Hydra's really the only change they've seen is the additional movement speed. Infestors now have a skill shot for their fungal growth, much harder to land on the new and improved Mutalisk. So it's hard to say if how viable the other options really are.
Yeah, I think Hydras would have been a little bit okay, but I don't think he would have been able to get his 3rd up.
Yeah, like making sure that the 3rd state up was always going to be key here, and then going into the late game as well, just really, really good pressure from Snute, forcing cancels and managing, I believe, at one point near the end of the game. I don't know if that's what we're going to see, splitting up his Lings and his Mutas as well to guarantee that he takes apart either the 3rd or the 4th. So just really good stuff from him there.
Yeah, and we're going to jump into the replay real quick here. Just want to show this kind of decisive Mutalisk battle.
All right, let's hop into the replay, guys, and take a quick look round about the 15-minute mark.
Right. So, this is when Violet kind of pokes in with his Mutalisk. At the same time, we see him trying to do the same kind of speedling run by that he did before. Meanwhile, Snute brings his Mutalisk over. We can see in the unit counting station, Violet is ahead just by a couple Mutalisks, and he is also ahead on the +1 attack.
Yeah. It felt in this game, though, that Snute was a little bit more on top of his things, like stopping the Ling run by. Last game, he just let the Lings come in. And I think he microed this fight quite well. There were a few mutas from Violet actually attacking the Extractor first, so that might have helped. Snute a little bit clumped up, but when it spread out and a few new mutas popped for him, this fight seemed to be going very well. And just before this, Snute had been ahead in drones for a period of 2 or 3 minutes, ahead in by 10 drones, so that helped a ton.
Yeah. One thing that's really interesting here, even though the Mutalisk numbers were about even, and Violet actually had the the better upgrades in this fight, notice how much damage the hatchery took. The hatchery was never directly attacked. Notice the incidental damage on these drones. All of this stuff here is actually what led to Snute winning that battle.
Yeah, that's a great point, absorbing the bounce attacks from the Mutalisk of Violet there.
I really think if Violet had brought his Lings with that so that they kind of have this even ground where often when you have a Mutalisk battle in this matchup, you want to bring your Speedlings and plant them underneath your Mutalisk, and that helps absorb a lot of the bounce damage. You would much rather have your Lings take damage than your Mutalisk. Once you get that overwhelming advantage, the air superiority in this matchup, you have much more free reign over the map, and we saw Snute from that point on take control of the game and really push it into a victory.
Okay, well, let's see if he can try and do it 2 times in a row and overturn the undefeated Violet. We're going into game number 3. Ladies and gentlemen, your commentators are Apollo and Kalaris.
Thanks very much. Violet now on the warpath. He's lost his first game. He says, don't lose any more. Cloud Kingdom is our map for such occurrences.
That's right, and both of them will have a lot of Wings of Liberty experience on this map. Both will know exactly what they need to do and what they will do going on to this next map. There is Violet with his scarf wrapped around. Will he be able to close it up? It's currently 1-1. Snute fighting, Violet fighting just as hard.
So let's jump on into game number 3 here, guys. The Intel Extreme Masters Group C coming to a conclusion here almost today, as we do have spawning up to the top right-hand position as our blue Zerg. He goes by the name of Liquid Snute. And spawning down to the bottom left-hand corner as our red Zerg. He goes by the name of Azubu's Violet.
Day 2 of 5 here at the Intel Extreme Masters, where these players are fighting out for $100,000 in prize money. Everyone gets paid here, so Liquid Snute, even if he was to drop out in last place here, would pick himself up $1,400. But let's say, for example, Violet wins this series and heads towards top 8 straight away. He picks himself up a minimum of $3,500 for his efforts in group stage if he was to win the group. So a lot of money on the line, and of course, it's Heart of the Swarm, the first tournament here before the game gets released next week. And the winner of this tournament gets a prestigious invitation to head over to France themselves for the Heart of the Swarm launch event.
Yeah, looking forward to that. I will be in attendance as a guest, and I'm looking forward to what they have in terms of surprises for us. You will be commentating, I believe. So fun stuff.
Fun stuff indeed there, as we have the spawn and pull in the background here for Snute, compared to Hatchery First by Violet. Snute, though, not looking to open up with too much early aggression here. Snute has always preferred going spawn and pull over Hatchery First. Hatchery First does have a bit of vulnerability to early Ling plays, especially against 9 pulls that can actually cancel your Hatchery First and win fights on the low ground here, which is why we see Snute opting to go spawn and pull into Hatchery First. But without the aggression, without the early pull here from Snute, Violet's going to be safe to get away with everything that he wants to at this moment, which is Hatchery into Extractor, into quite a late spawner pull.
Yeah, it's a nice little play here from Violet. In the grand scheme of things, though, I mean, he's going to have a little bit later access to Queens, so his lava isn't going to be out as quick as his opponent. But no guesses have been taken just yet by Snute here, and Violet's on the way on in to have a little bit of a look around.
you know, looking at Group C itself, Violet dominating it for sure, but the other two Zergs in the group, Snute and Vortex, both 0-3 at this point, and if Snute loses this 0-4, and we've already had other Zergs go out immediately. We had Slivko in Group A go 1 win to 4 losses. We have Exlo going 0-5, just getting smacked to the bottom of their groups here, and Violet seems to be the savior for Zerg, definitely alongside Red, who performed super well yesterday with 4 wins to 1 loss, going through a 2nd place. But at this point of the game, at this stage of the groups here, it's all about thinning out the weak links for this tournament.
And an interesting thing is looking at Group A and B is that a Protoss, Zerg, and a Terran from Group A have gone out, and a Protoss, Zerg, and a Terran have gone out from Group B. So by no means is it depends on how much players have had practice with Heart of the Swarm right now. Some people have had a lot, some people have had less. Yoda, you would think, have had less, but he just comes along and dominates Group B to kick things off. So crazy stuff.
Nice drone pick off there by Snute. Snute opting for a relatively late gas here, which means his drone count's a lot higher, or will be high, because he's focusing more on drone production. Behind this, though, we do have Violet with quite a fast speed. Doesn't have a Baneling Nest down yet, so you can't really do anything aggressively, especially with Snute having a much faster Baneling Nest coming down here, as well as speed. Actually, before speed, playing super, super defensive, and is looking not to try anything aggressive, and therefore will be looking to shoot up in terms of his economy, in terms of tech, and try to get the lead here against Violet.
Yeah, and I think if Snute were to have gone for anything aggressive, it would have just been one of those little pokes like we saw in game number 2 again. But it's going to be Violet who is actually going for maybe a little bit more of an aggressive stance here, with a ton of Zerglings in production, as well as his Baneling Nest, notably actually down there and good to go very soon. So he can quite easily put on the aggression himself. Don't know whether or not it's going to work, though. Snute's very, very good defensively in ZVZ.
Yeah, but he doesn't have Zergling speed for quite a while here. His Queen's going to have to block the ramp, and behind this, Violet's droning quite heavily, so a bit of pressure is going to come in by Violet. If he can like hit some big Baneling detonations into the mineral line.
Ooh, sneaky. Wow. Gets a few of those Zerglings up into the main here, start nibbling away at those, and even might get the Queen. No, he will not. Baneling detonation was certainly big there, considering how many Lings were actually out and about there. And does clean up everything at the natural. Will he be able to clean up at the main? Don't know.
Zergling speed is just limiting Snute's mobility here, but decisive play by Violet, pulling the Queens off the ramp into getting into the main base, landed in 10 drone kills there. Behind this, managing to get up layer of his own. You know, as defenses have Snute played and set himself up to be, especially because he hasn't even gained anything from being defensive. He doesn't have a Hydra, he doesn't have tech. Violet played that really smartly, and it's taken himself a lead once again in this series.
It's sometimes you can see in ZVZ people go for that kind of aggression that Violet did and commit a ton of gas to Banelings, but he didn't. He just put a sprinkling of Banelings in there, and that's what allows him to get that layer up much, much faster here than Snute. So a really nice play. There's a few Banelings defensively at home, but that'll be great for denying any scouting that Snute wants to do.
And again, Violet with a massive Spire lead here. Just like previously, I think QXC really nailed it in his analysis previously, where Violet was winning the majority of the game until that one fight, which didn't work in his favor. And if he doesn't make that same mistake this time, Violet could very easily dominate this game like we saw him do in the early to mid stages of the previous one.
It can swing back and forth here in ZVZ, and this is one of the factors that does come along. But for now, trying to deny this third as best he can do. Banelings and Zergling is going to zone that out, though, quite nicely. So does manage to save his third for now, but Snute is also on the way with his third, just a little bit later.
Much faster Spire, much faster third base here. Snute actually gets a scouting ling in, and it's good and bad, because it's good, you get in there, you see it. It's bad because you're now like, oh, I'm quite far behind. And he knows that too, so we're going to have to see what he's going to plan. Right now, he's got a lot of Lings and Banelings being morphed. If he's able to bring down this third of Violet, then he can definitely put himself in a good position, but he's going to have to defend his own first as well.
To me, it's actually an interesting Spire placement here by Violet. Banelings trying to deny any of this aggression. And for now, will the Banelings be able to connect? No, they will not. But the Spire placement for Violet is not, like, it's very central, of course. But it's almost as if he kind of expected it to be scouted in the end. I don't know why I'm thinking that, but we'll see.
Carapace down from Violet. Again, so much faster. Look at that, Spire is only just about halfway for Snute. Supply capped at 76 supply as well, with no Overlords on the way. He will have the hatchery to finish up, which give him a little bit more supply, but overall here, Snute just falling behind step by step here.
Why is Violet only getting 3 Mutalisks? Maybe he's not got too much lava for now, but no, that's the correct. He didn't have too much lava. They're adding on a few more. Zerglings now going to try and surround this queen. Will grab it, so that's a nice pickup there for Snute. And even more Zerglings funneling on in. Good God, this is so much aggression.
Yeah, Nick, like I said, if he's able to bring down this hatchery, it's going to work wonders for him. But 3 Mutalisks, a Spine Crawler and Ling streaming across, I don't think it's going to fall down. He can definitely pick off the Spine Crawler and then go to drone work. And it is working out in his favor a little bit here. Like you said, there wasn't enough lava. He'd missed a couple injects, especially now losing that 3rd queen is going to slow him down even further. But more Lings are coming down by Snute. 12 Mutalisks are on the way.
Yeah, and that's going to even things up quite nicely for each player here, as we have around 13 eventually for Violet when those 12 actually pop out for Snute. So very, very close right now. But I mean, Snute seems to be getting good trades here with these Lings, and it's 11 kills to 10 kills on those drones. So very even in that regard as well, with Violet just peeking ahead a little.
And Snute has a much better gas income because of the harassment on that 3rd base, which will ultimately give him the high Mutalisk count. And with the defensive Spore Crawler, he's got nothing to worry about. Violet needs to pick himself up here, despite having the much faster layer Inspire and upgrade. He has fallen a little bit and given Snute an advantage or an ability to crawl back into this game. A supply block again here for Snute at 94 supply. A good fight here for Snute there, taking a couple of hits. The Carapace isn't ready. Transfuse did go down as well on that back Mutalisk, and a couple of Lings soaked to a couple of the hits as well. But Violet, with Carapace about to finish, can easily turn this around and start looking to fight shortly.
Yeah, 50 Mutalisks to 16 right now. 4 now on the way for Violet, so he's going to have the higher count in just a little bit. And again, he has that Carapace window. But it looks like he's just going to sit around in the middle of the map for now. Starts his +1. A lot of Zerglings on the way for Snute for potentially some more counterattacks.
Snute's going to try and hit this 3rd base hard, and Violet's droning a little bit too much here, potentially. 64 drones for Violet, 46 for Snute. And here comes the unit production. If Violet builds any more drones, he could very easily lose this game. He just won't have enough army supply. And we'll see what Snute's going to do. Does he keep on building units, or does he go back to drones? More drones coming out here by Violet. Does have defensive Banelings, though. The Banelings are going to detonate on these Lings, which will ultimately give him the advantage when it comes to the Ling versus Ling fight, or Zergling versus Zergling fight. But a lot of units being made for Snute. It seems to be that he's trying to hit a timing here while Violet is droning. I'm not too sure this can work. The Mutalisk count is relatively equal, a massive difference in terms of drones.
Carapace is done for both players as well here. Those Mutalisks trying to swing on in. A lot of Zerglings also flooding in. The Mutalisks went forwards first just to be able to spot things. They're actually being kept right under the Mutalisks, so they do take some of that bounces, but a nice Baneling connection with those Zerglings as well. Violet takes a supply lead here to kick things off, but he just has exactly the same amount of Mutalisks. I think the Queens should be the big difference here if he's able to get a few transfusions or shots off one of these. 11 Mutalisks to 13. He looks like he's going to prevail.
Yeah, we saw Snute there on screen just kind of sigh a little bit that didn't work. It was a big attempt, and because of that, his income's much lower than Violet's has been for the last couple of minutes here, which means he's going to have more units. He's got more lava. He's going to be able to produce more units here with a 4th hatchery coming in, +1 attack on the way as well. And behind this, Snute is continuing to build units. He knows he's in trouble, and he is in trouble now. Violet has a convincing, commanding lead in this game, and if he wins this game, he's going 4-0 in his group. He takes the gases on the 4th base, and now that that +1 attack is done, Lings are being made, and I think we're going to see Violet turn the heat up against Snute.
Yeah, that +1 is far from done here for Snute, so he can't really equalize up his units against his opponents right now. Zergling's even going for the counterattack. If they could get that queen, that would be also fantastic, and he does, limiting so much of his opponent's production here whilst he goes for the attack. This is the perfect time. Zergling streaming on into the 3rd base. Will they be able to kill the queen there as well? There might be that vulnerability.
There might be that vulnerability, but Snute is in a bunch of trouble on the 3rd base here, losing spines, queens, drones, and this is not what he needs, considering that Violet has this 4th base down. He's going to be mining from that shortly. Again, Snute's building drones when Violet's building army supply. It's 128 to 123. That +1 attack is making a big difference. 70 supply to 66. Sport Crawlers and Queens in position. This is fortified. It's majorly fortified here for Violet.
There's no way he can break it at all. 25 Mutalisks to 26 in favor of Snute right now, but that's not going to be a big deal as there's still Queens for Violet to actually be able to produce. He has 4 Queens as opposed to 1. Only just now is, well, no, Snute's actually not just reproducing. It's Violet that's reproducing even more Queens. So he's going to have so little production in comparison to Violet, but he might be able to snipe off the 4th hatchery.
Nice run by here. Snute trying to fight for his tournament life. bye for sure. If he loses this, there's no way that he can make it through. And the Lynx do clear it up inside the main base. The Queen did fall down. Snute at 134 supply, building overlords. Again, a little bit supply capped here. But on that 4th base is the biggest thing ever. Snute realizes that if that 4th base keeps on mining and the gases are taken, then he just can't keep up. There's no way he can keep up. Great transfuses to keep that hatchery alive, but still, Snute with 30 Mulus over 28. He has more Mulus at this point.
Yeah, that's a little bit of a scary spot here as for now. Well, 55 to work is 55, so that's evened up quite nicely. And Snute here is trying to transition onto the infestation pit, realizing that, well, maybe this is the saving grace here. But I mean, but he's keeping Violet dancing, so it's actually kind of evening out pretty well. But we still have Violet going up to +2 weapons, and if he can spread his Mutalisks against Infestors that eventually come out, or even if he hits in between the transition onto Infestors, he has a great window.
Snute's going to start to bank a lot of gas if he wants to go over to Infestors. That means his Mulus count will stop. And if it keeps on rising for Violet with +2 attack on the way, it's going to be quite deadly here. A massive timing window has just now opened up for Violet to win this game because of that. But if the Infestors come into the game, that could change a lot. If he's able to pin these Mulus down underneath Spores, underneath Queens, Snute needs to play aggressive, but not be aggressive, if that makes sense. He needs to show aggression to keep Violet back, to keep him occupied. If he sits back, Violet will click. Something will click and he'll just go for it. Yeah. He's got 4 Infestors on the way. But look at that Mutalisk flock.
Yeah. He needs to flex his muscles. That is exactly what he needs to do. But also, he needs to just, I mean, either assume that that is going to be the case after his opponent's not doing that, or actually scout out the infestation bit at the very back of the base, because he doesn't have a clue that it's there right now. There are 5 Infestors about to pop in line with that Pathogen Glands finishing up, and Fungals can be the absolute death of this composition now that he's been given room to get it going.
Snute needs to make a trap here. He needs to pull the Mutalisks away, because Violet will go into a fight feeling comfortable here, but he may spot the first Infestor, and he will. And are we going to see a Fungal coming down? He's got to force. He can't really just Fungal them out in the open, I don't think, just because there's too many.
Oh, he's going to go for the engagement. A big Fungal actually hits half of those Mutalisks. Will it be enough? It's actually weakening a lot of them there, as he does have 41 Mutalisks to 27, but a big chunk of them have been completely weakened. He needs to retreat and regenerate really quickly.
And he will be able to, and unfortunately Snute's master plan of the trap is falling apart here. He has to fight soon. If they regenerate and go back to the full health that they were initially at, then this could end very poorly.
Yeah, it could. There's a lot of Queens out here for Violet. He needs to bring them along. He needs to get a lot of transfuses going. He's got 8 Queens as opposed to his opponents 2. He can easily come in here now. There's no more energy left for those Infestors. Infested Terrans do go down. It looks like he's going to be able to overwhelm his opponent's Mutalisk count regardless. Yeah. Oh my god, 26 Mutas left to 10.
Snute really needed to force a trap there, but it didn't work. GG. Violet takes up 2 wins to 1 loss and goes 4-0 in his group, topping his group with 1 game away from acing it.
Very impressive play here from Violet once again. It's been a while since I've actually seen him in a European foreign tournament, but here he is, back for vengeance, back playing extremely strongly. And, well, I think we should be sending it over to the analysis desk to see what they think about game number 3. Take it away, guys.
All right, that was a very enthralling game number 3 there. Violet squeezing out the 2-1 victory over Snute. Congratulations to him. And there's a reasonable amount to talk about in that game. Early on, of course, we saw a very fast Zergling aggression come out of Violet around about the 6-minute mark. How did that affect the gameplay from both sides? And were they relatively stable after that? Was the game even at that point, or did anything shift?
I felt like after that, Snute was a little bit behind. His layer was a lot later than Violet's, which meant the Spire was later. Just like in game 1, actually. Everything was just a little bit later.
Yeah. Actually, we really need to talk about on the layer as well. QXC, you were mentioning that quite a bit during the game itself. We're going to actually head straight over to Rachel Kuriko, though, for a quick interview. And when we pop back, we'll talk a little bit more about that game number 3.
Thank you, guys. Violet, you said that was tougher than your match against Vortex?
Yeah, last match was hardest match today. Yeah, it's really tough.
Well, you stumbled in the second match. You guys had similar builds, game 1, game 2, game 3 in the early game. What happened in game 2 that let you fall behind?
Sorry?
What happened in game 2?
Game 2, I'm like, I'm really hating the game because I'm way too fast with my layer and I'm taking more mining gas than him. So I'm really hating. So I'm trying just finish it early, but he defends really well, and he also have a lot of murals. So actually, I don't know. I have to watch the replay. That's why I say the tough.
Well, is there anything you want to say to all your fans out here?
When I first placed in my group, I will say really good word to you guys. So please keep cheering me. Thank you.
All right, we got one more match to see if you're first place in your group, and if he is, well, we can look forward to his speech. Thank you so much, guys. We're going to go back and analyze that game too.
That's right, we were talking briefly about the layer and how in the previous game that Snute won, his layer was of course delayed by a fair bit compared to Violet as well. His layer was delayed this time too, but for a very different reason.
Sure. So we were talking a bit about this and actually having a little bit of a debate, but in game 2, Snute's lair was pretty late, but the main reason for that was because he had to build defensive banelings, and so his gas really never came over 100.
Yeah.
In this game on Cloud Kingdom, Snute was under pressure from the mass speedlings, but he had the gas. He didn't start his lair until he was at about 250 gas, and so this was more of a mistake rather than a forced decision based on what happened in the game, which is what happened on Achillean Waste. And that ended up kind of leading into more speedling heavy play and eventually kind of being on the back foot in terms of the Muta versus Muta game.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Just having the layer a little bit later completely changed the game. Also, I mean, you have your mutas later. You're not going to be able to kill any overlords of the opponent, and you, Violet, on the other hand, kill 2 or 3 overlords. But everything is so big when you're playing a complete mirror.
Yeah, for sure.
We then had, of course, one engagement where we had some muta-on-muta action with some Zerglings trying to come in to absorb the bounce attacks, but that was dealt with quite well with a Baneling, and then both sides were streaming Lings in, so it was relatively even, and Snute backed off. But then we had a really interesting point over here towards the end of the game. We're going to hop into the replay and take a look at this now, where the muta-on-muta action was supplemented by a couple of Baneling. Snute attempting to turn this around.
Fungal growths.
Yeah, so just before this, Snute switched to Infestors, which was a bit of a risky move, but he needed to do something to change his game around because he was behind in gas income. So he tried to switch to Infestors. He did throw down a few Infestors and a few fungal growths, but for some reason he didn't change, actually attack the mutas while they were being fungal growth, and I think that was the main mistake.
Yeah, that was really strange. He already, I mean, the numbers here basically won it for Violet, but is it possible to maybe pause and head straight back to 2020? If we take a look after the first fungal hits, why do you think Snute backed off after hitting the first couple of fungals? Was he not confident in taking that fight if we move forward here?
Yeah, I think it's very clear that Violet is the person with more Mutalis in this fight, and so you definitely don't want to fight head on. You want to wait for these fungal growths to do a fair amount of damage. So what he really wanted to do right now, once he hits the first fungal, back up with the Mutalis, because you don't want to fight full on. There's no reason to do it, and you have the more fungals. As long as you time it correctly, your opponent's not going to escape. The game state is not going to change. You're only going to be more and more advantaged the more fungals you hit in a row without any battle happening. So if he backs up with the mutas, hits all of these fungals, and then goes in basically as the second to last fungal is taking its toll, then you can maximize your damage output. So you're going to be able to kill, well, even a little before now. Because if you go, let's say right when that fungal hits, you're not going to kill quite as many mutas because your opponent's going to be able to run away a little bit. He definitely needed to engage before the fungal growth wore off, but probably even a little bit before that last fungal hit.
And with the numbers that Violet had there, and like you were mentioning, Harston, the regeneration rate on those mutas, of course, they're still in the orange, but he was still getting a fair amount of hit points back in between those two battles.
Yep. And here we see it's really not a matter of control at this point. It's just Violet has so many more Mutalis. The upgrades are even. There's not really anything to be said for that. And the damage output from Snute is just not big enough to overcome that disadvantage.
All right, well, congratulations there to Violet. And yeah, so he is going to go undefeated in his group. He's got one match left to play, after which we'll see if he ends up topping his group undefeated. Guys, this is the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship live from Hanover in Germany, and we'll be back with that match after this break.